Welcome to That's Based. I'm your host, as always, Caleb Salvatore, reporting from somewhere underground. We're laughing our way to the end of days. Brought to you by Outlaw Streamers and our friends over at Blood of Tyrants Wines. DrinkBloodOfTyrants.com. Promo code BASED, B-A-S-E-D. Like the title of the show, will save you 10% off your order at the checkout. Both the red and white wine, along with the Liquid Freedom energy drink. DrinkBloodOfTyrants.com. Promo code BASED. B-A-S-E-D, like the title of the show, to save yourself 10% off your order at the checkout. Go do it now. Well, it is Wednesday, May 14th, and I have been robbed. I'm demanding a recount. This is the most egregious case of electoral fraud in the history of this country. My write-in campaign for mayor of Omaha has been, if you go off the official vote count, defeated. If you go off the official count. Something tells me that there's some fraudulent activity going on here, though. Listen, I've crunched the numbers. I've gone over it 100 times. We've looked at the statistics. We've looked at the internal polling. There's no way on earth we could have lost this election. I demand a recount immediately. I want everyone investigated and lawyering up. I campaigned. There's no denying. I campaigned harder than anyone else in this race. You can go back and look. I posted about this on Facebook at least 3 times, telling people to go write me in. We ran the internal polling, and I was polling at 50%. 50%. Me versus the other 2 candidates, I was polling at 50%. Now, the sample size was, we only polled my parents, but I still got half of the vote from that demographic. So I don't understand how I was defeated here. There's only one explanation for it. It's one word, 5 letters, F-R-A-U-D, fraud. Stolen election. I have already contacted my attorney. This is not the last of it. You haven't heard the end of this fight here. This is only the beginning. We're going to draw this thing out and be a thorn in the side of this city for decades to come until we get to the bottom. We will count those votes over and over and over again. We will we will identify and throw out every last fraudulent ballot until I come out victorious. I didn't have a plan B. I don't know what to do now. I was really thinking we were going to be in City Hall Monday morning, moving our shit in, doing the podcast from there. I thought I was going to be handing out 6-figure jobs to my family and friends, made up jobs. I mean, the current mayor does it. I was at least going to be open and honest about my corruption. I wasn't going to act like it was for the greater good of the city. Yeah, so what if my brother has a fake job 3 hours away and never shows up to work? The last mayor did crap like that. They just made jobs up. Everybody does it. The difference was I was actually going to be honest about how I was wasting your money. But you didn't want that. You want to be lied to. So John Ewing, the new mayor of Omaha, can come in and lie to you guys about how he's going to waste your money. Tell you it's going toward the greater good. And now he can line it's a good thing. It's a good thing because we had 12 years of Gene Stothert's family and friends lining their pockets on backroom deals. It's about time somebody else's family and friends get the opportunity to line their pockets on crooked backroom deals. I was going to be honest with you. I had some great ideas. Great ideas. Fantastic ideas. Nobody wanted to hear them. I was going to turn the streetcar into an amusement park ride. We were going to put price controls on gas station beef jerky because it's ridiculously expensive. We were going to ban ice cream men from operating in the city because there's absolutely no reason that those creeps should be able to drive around playing music with sweets, trying to lure children to their van. I was going to protect your kids. And now John Ewing's going to come in and let transgender MS-13 members drive around in ice cream trucks, scooping children up off the streets. And he'll probably pay them for it. You did this to yourselves, Omaha. You didn't even want to hear about my idea to turn the Oakview Mall into the Vegas Strip of the Midwest. We were going to turn it into an all-inclusive casino resort. Yes, my wife's tribe was going to be the ones that were overseeing it, and she was going to get a $500,000 a year consulting job spearheading the effort as the liaison between the city and the tribe. That's irrelevant, though. Small, minor details. We were going to put this city on the map, and you didn't want it. Fraud. If you voted for Stothert or Ewing, you should look yourself in the... I don't know how you can look yourself in the mirror, honestly, but you should. And then you should walk outside and at the top of your lungs apologize to this city for holding it back. Every last one of you should be ashamed of yourselves. I understand Gene Stothert has already conceded the election. I, for one, am not. This is the biggest screw job in the history of politics. We're going to get to the bottom of it. I've seen enough. Well, that was fun. That was fun. At Gene Stothert, down goes Mayor Gene. Down goes Mayor Gene. Can I say this before we get into the ins and outs of what happened last night? I know a lot of my Republican friends who so foolishly didn't write me in are panicking right now. They're freaking out that Omaha's, I've seen people say, we're going to turn into Portland and Chicago, and it's... Calm down. You guys don't understand that that's part of the reason you lost, and it's the same reason that Kamala Harris lost back in November. Because people don't buy the bullshit. It's Boy Who Cried Wolf, right-wing edition. If John Ewing was some relative unknown, because you all saw the ads going around trying to paint him as this communist radical, that might have worked. The guy's been the Douglas County treasurer since the 1800s, before black people could even vote. We had a black county treasurer in this city. It didn't work. People are like, I know this guy. He runs the DMV. We actually have one of the few functioning DMVs in the country. I agree with him on everything, no, but he's not the lunatic that you're painting him to be. It's not going to be one of those situations where if I don't show up, the city's going to burn to the ground. And you know what? If it does, I'll come on here and eat my hat. I don't think it's going to happen, though. Yeah, he wasn't my first choice. I'm not a big fan of him. I didn't vote for him. I wrote myself in, as you all failed to do, as we can see by tonight's results. I wrote myself in. I don't think it's going to be the end of the city as we know it. I think you need to calm down. He's not a fascist commie lunatic the same way, he's not a commie lunatic the same way Trump wasn't a fascist. That doesn't work. You can't lie about your opponent anymore, specifically when said opponent is a known commodity. That line might have worked on Jasmine Harris, but it did not work on John Ewing. There's a lot of things that went wrong here. So what I'm being told is West Omaha didn't show up to vote for Gene. They stayed. They didn't vote for Ewing. They certainly didn't vote for me, but they stayed home. And that's what cost her. And you know what? I don't feel bad for her. Not one, but I didn't give a rat's ass who won this election between these two. My guy got knocked out. He finished third in the primary. I tried to mount a write-in campaign to save the city. I worked very, very hard at it. You know, sent a couple text messages, made some Facebook comments on the local news posts. Didn't work. Did what I could. But she lost because she abandoned her base. That's what happened. West Omaha didn't show up. West Omaha is traditionally more conservative. North Omaha absolutely showed up. They were going to vote for the first black mayor. And when the strongest when the strongest part of the city for one candidate does show up and the strongest part of the city for the other candidate feels like they've been lied to and abandoned over and over and over again, it becomes a matter of elementary school math, my dear Watson, who's going to win that race. It was obvious what was going to happen from the get-go. Gene Stothert, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a giant dump on everyone's parade today. How about that? I'll take a giant dump on the Ewing campaign and the Nebraska Democrats with their blue dot garbage. I'll take a giant dump on their victory parade, and I'll take a giant dump on the Stothert campaign's pity party. Okay? Let's start with the Democrats. I just want to shit on you guys' parade a little bit. You didn't win because Omaha's a blue dot. It's a purple dot. You didn't win because there's this blue wave coming in 2026. We've already gone over that on a previous show. There's a clip of it up on YouTube. You can go watch it there. Why you all should pump the brakes on the blue wave nonsense. That's not why you won. This isn't a sign of what's to come a year and a half from now. You won because people had Stothert fatigue. 12 years of anybody, people get tired of them. Specifically when that person decides to make an extremely unpopular issue, not just an unpopular issue, but an unpopular issue amongst her base and a key demographic that she needed to show up for her, the hill she's going to die on. This is a flash in the pan. If you're the Democrats. And if you do win in November, this won't have been a sign. This was everything to do with who was running on the other side of you guys, and nothing to do with you. This wasn't about the Democrats showing up and the independents flipping. No. This was about the Republicans not showing up. So enjoy your victory. Just keep in mind you've got a whole lot of work to do over the next 18 months. And Republicans, Stothert, I know what you guys are going to do. You're going to blame the McDonnell campaign. You're going to blame the so-called MAGA extremist wing of the Republican Party. You're going to blame me for launching the most successful yet simultaneously robbed write-in campaign in Omaha mayoral history, at least over the last 4 years. But none of those things are to blame. None of them. The only people you have to blame are yourselves. The reality here is Mayor Stothert, Mayor Stothole, Grandma Pothole, made a calculated error. She took a gamble and she lost in the primary. She was already struggling with the more conservative wing of the Republican Party, many of whom left her for McDonnell. And I told you this was going to happen about a month ago when the primary happened. And lo and behold, once again, I was right. Another one of my political predictions came true. Go back and watch the post-primary episode. I told you she was in trouble. She had a significant portion of her base that flipped for McDonnell. I said, I don't know how many of those people are going to flip for her. And Jasmine Harris was the difference, more than the difference between Stothert and Ewing in the primary. And almost all of the people that voted for Harris would turn around and flip for John Ewing. And that's exactly what happened. Lo and behold, I was right again. Because it doesn't take a fucking rocket scientist to tell you what's going to happen. But Gene Stothert gambled in the primary. I think they really thought it was going to be her versus McDonnell in the general. McDonnell was going to win the more conservative voters, and she thought that if she positioned herself as the more left-leaning of the two Republicans, or at the very least more centrist of the two Republicans, she would fare better because the Democrats would come out to vote for her. Well, that may have been the case, but they're not going to vote for you over a Democrat, let alone the Democrat who would be the first black mayor in the history of the city, because that party still very much believes in identitarian politics. Side note, John Ewing was not a DEI mayor. Let's not call him that. The guy's more than qualified. He's been doing the job for a long time, in government. I don't agree with all of his policies, but let's not say every time a black person rises to power that it was a DEI hire, because that's not true. With that said, she decided to pander to a group of people that, while they, yes, probably would have voted for her over McDonnell, were never in hell going to vote for her over John Ewing. And it backfired. The second she lost that race, the second McDonnell lost that race, Jean Stothert pivoted. She started campaigning as more of a conservative, started attending the Douglas County Republican Party meetings, which she hadn't been to in God knows how long, and I have that on very good authority. Decided to be a conservative again because she realized, oh my God, we need to get this base back. I was actually a member of several of those internal discussions, those conversations. I don't think I was the type of willing participant they wanted me to be, but I was a member of some of those conversations. With that said, what have I always told you guys? Every election, whether it's mayor or president or dog catcher, whoever motivates their base wins. Yeah, independents are important, but if your base doesn't want to come out and vote for you, you're not going to win. And that's exactly what happened. West Omaha, the most conservative district in the city, said, nah, I think we'll pass. And they did. They didn't believe you anymore. They were tired of the lies. They were tired of the flip-flopping on issues like guns, taxes, the LGBTQ 4K HD TV, exclamation point plus community, the pandering to them, marching in the pride marches and whatnot. And the streetcar really was the nail in the coffin. Because nobody believed you when you said that you weren't going to raise taxes to pay for the streetcar. No one believed you. What people in West Omaha saw was they were about to get their property values tripled so that you could pay, because that's how it always works in this city, so that you could pay for a streetcar that they would never use. They were going to get taxed for something they would never use. And they saw it for the scam that it was. And they said, you know what? Ewing was a realist about it. He said, the streetcar's coming. There's nothing we can do to stop it, but we should learn from it. When something is that unpopular with the city, we should put it to a vote. And whether he was lying or not remains to be seen. But people were like, you know what? At least he's got it right. Hindsight's 20/20. But I think Stothert deserves the pay for what she did, for doing something so unpopular amongst her constituents. This is why when she recites these bullshit streetcar polls, like she told me face-to-face in person, that she saw numbers the opposite of the polls that were public. Now, granted, she's never released those polls, but she told me when I said 60 to when I cited the studies that have been released on this, that say 60 to 70% of Omahans were opposed to the streetcar. She told me she saw studies that showed the opposite of that. Now, that's the problem with the forum that we were in, is if she were on this show, I'd go, great, what are those studies? Let's pull them up right now and look at them. But she can just say those things. The same way, this is how I know they knew they were in trouble. She has all these polls and studies that she doesn't release to the public. I got a lot of polls sent to my phone. I couldn't take them because I'm a media member. A lot of polls sent to my phone asking who I was voting for the mayoral election. Those polls never got released. Now, the Ewing campaign didn't have the money to be running a bunch of internal polls. When internal polls show you up, you release them to intimidate your opponent. They didn't do that, so I knew she was in trouble. So I'd love to see the polls that say everyone supported the streetcar. What this was a referendum on the streetcar. You had an issue that was particularly unpopular in a specific part of town that more or less was on the ballot. Because that's what all the Stothert supporters were saying after the last election, right back in 2021. When I was saying, hey, she told us we could vote on the streetcar and didn't allow us to do it back in 2017. And the clapback was, well, the referendum on the streetcar was in 2021. People voted her back into office. That means they supported the streetcar. Well, by that logic, I guess they don't support it anymore. Even though she ran against, during COVID against a guy that had no funding and couldn't really run a campaign. He was a joke paper candidate. It's a ridiculous claim to make that was a referendum on the streetcars if people vote on one issue. But when you have an issue that's particularly unpopular in a certain part of town, and that part of town doesn't show up for a candidate they have historically supported over the last 3 terms, kind of tells you all you need to know there. So she lost, and you know what? I don't feel bad for her. She got what she fucking deserved. She has no one to blame but herself and the idiots who campaigned with her. She wanted a campaign like it was 2006 where you can flip-flop and get away with it. The internet is forever, sweetheart. No mas. You don't get to do that anymore. You don't get to pander to Democrats for the entire primary and then turn around to your base and go, hey, all that shit I said, totally just kidding. Totally just kidding. I know I tried to play DEI politics and, identity politics and whatnot. It was a joke. I didn't mean any of it. Let bygones be bygones. Extend the olive branch. Let's do this. People don't forget anymore. Not like they used to. They're done. She lost. She's to blame. Or the people who told her what to do were to blame. I'm seeing ads going out talking about Ewing supporting radical gender theory and men and women's locker rooms and kids, trans, whatever the fuck. Grown men playing women's sports. That crap, right? That insanity. Which I think is all crazy. I think if you support that, you're a fool. But I've never once seen John Ewing come on the record and say that. And they never pointed to a single instance where he said that. Do you remember the Donald Trump-Kamala Harris moment in the debate back in 2024 when he said Kamala Harris supports transgender surgeries for illegal aliens locked up in prison? And they were like, what a ridiculous thing to say. His poll numbers went way down. They were saying it was over because she dominated that debate. Then a couple weeks later, that ad comes out with Kamala Harris quite literally saying, and I quote, I support transgender surgeries for illegal aliens in prison, end quote. And people were like, oh, you said that. The difference is the Trump campaign actually provided receipts there. You guys didn't because you had none. Maybe he does support that. But if you're going to make that accusation against somebody, you got to have proof of it. They were banking on it being so late toward the end of the election cycle, people weren't going to have time to ask him for proof, and there would just be the shock because that is an unpopular issue for the Democrats. Notice how not all of them, there's still a crazy wing, but the more pragmatic Democrats don't want to talk about the trans stuff anymore because they realized it's not a winning issue. They've been lied to. All Ewing had to do was sit back and go, prove it. Didn't say any of that. They riled you guys up, or they tried to rile people up, and it failed. Fear politics do not work the way they used to. Donald Trump has been painted as Adolf Hitler for the last 9 years. He's now serving his second term as president. You can't scare people the way you used to be able to do it. Believe it or not, Gene, and any Republican or Democrat who wants to run in the future, you're going to actually have to run. If you're an incumbent, you're going to have to run on your results. If you want to win, if you're an insurgent candidate, if you're a challenger, you're going to have to win on ideals and solutions. You're not just going to be able to point out problems, nor are you going to be able to baselessly fearmonger about your opponent. They tried that with Trump. They just tried that. The left tried it. And I don't know why the right would think they could copy that. They tried to call Trump a Nazi from the Madison Square Garden rally. Oh, it was a Nazi rally. They had Jewish speakers At a Holocaust survivors at a Nazi rally. Insanity. People are like, that's retarded. No, you're wrong. And they ignored it. John Ewing, again, whom I don't agree with on everything. I probably, if you did, he went down the line. Not even probably, guarantee you. He went down the line, issue by issue. Who do I agree with more? It'd be Stothert. Issue by issue politically. But it wasn't politics and views politically that decided this election. It was personality. People were tired of this angry, bitter old bag using the city as a slush fund. Not a personal slush fund, but for pet projects. And Ewing had a smart strategy. He let McDonnell and Stothert beat the hell out of each other in the in the primary. Came out clean. He had been untouched. She had already gotten all the nonsense thrown at her. And a lot of them, even more beneficial to Ewing, a lot of the nonsense that had been, a lot of the attacks that had been thrown at her were targeting what would typically be her base in the general election. So there it is. And you guys want my honest opinion? Republicans in Omaha, y'all got some soul searching to do here. Because usually when a party loses an election like this, they can regroup and there's a couple of names on a short list for 4 years from now. It's like, okay, who do we got? What are our names? That like who do we got here? You know, at least we can have so-and-so and so-and-so, and there's already a little bit of buzz about who the next person's going to be. I look at this, I don't see anybody. I don't think Mike McDonnell makes another run at it. I'm assuming Stothert's done. It sounds to me like there is a city council member and a former state senator, both from Omaha, that are going to make a serious run at Bacon's seat, should he retire, as I'm 80 to 90% sure he will, based on some things I know that I can't disclose. But you don't have an obvious choice to be the Republican nominee to run against Ewing 4 years from now. There's no one. Maybe it's me. You know what I think I'm going to do? I think I'm going to find a statewide race, because the Democrat Party outside of Omaha and Lincoln is a total joke, right? They very rarely do they find candidates to fill every single race as an opponent, to the Republican incumbent. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to find like some weird office, like state treasurer or something, state auditor or something like that, where the Democrats don't nominate anybody, switch my party registration to Democrat, be the only person in the primary, win the primary, and see how many of these idiots will show up and just check my name because of the letter next to it. Will the party freak out, or will there be like a Streisand effect where it's like, let's not talk about him and don't tell people about the writing, we just don't want them to know about it? What'll they do? I think that would be funny. How many Democrats would vote for somebody who is at odds with like 70 to 80% of their platform because they're fucking idiots and he has the right letter next to his name? I think I might do that. I wouldn't campaign. I wouldn't even try. But I'll find some race where I'd be the only person in the primary. I don't have a snowball's chance in hell at winning. Throw my name on the ballot. And see, do they decide to attack me and disavow me? Or do they just say, hey, this guy's not campaigning. We'll just be quiet and let him do his thing. Just ignore it. Hope nobody else pays attention to it. I think I'm going to try that in 2026. See what they do. Maybe they'll like throw money at me. They'll be like, hey, you know what? You're kind of well spoken. I guess I'm liberal on some issues like gay marriage and marijuana. Maybe they'll be like, hey, you know what? We'll throw some money at you. Here's a campaign. Like, why don't you go get yourself a campaign team? I'll immediately make Mia my campaign manager. I'll pay her $10,000 a month. My brother will form a consulting company. So will my dad. I'll pay them both substantial amounts of money every month. And we'll win. No, we won't. Thinking out loud on the air. Thinking out loud on the air. There is a good chance, keep this in mind, that Gene Stothert, though, will be the last Republican mayor this city sees for the next 20 years. We'll see how Ewing does. I don't think it's going to be great, but I also don't think it's going to be a train wreck. It was going to be fine either way. That's the reality. Is they're both status quo, middle-of-the-road, milquetoast establishment hacks. It's not going to be a disaster, like if we elected a communist, but it's also probably not going to be good. We're going to continue down this slow death march into fiscal insanity in this city, and you all get to deal with the consequences of not writing me in. Hey, I tried, kinda. You had your chance. You blew it, Omaha. And you have nobody to blame but yourselves when you don't get that Oakview Casino Resort. That's been our show. I think we're going to do a bonus show Friday. Might go live even. I got some stuff I want to talk about. We're going to have way too much going on with the big show. So Friday morning, you might get a bonus show out of us. Stay tuned. All right, that's been our show. We will see you guys Saturday for sure. Most likely Friday morning. Tune in on Rumble and YouTube. 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. We might go live with it. Cheat on your taxes, not your spouse. And stay based.